Hello students, welcome to my channel Somalins by World. Today I am going to discuss about the process of respiration through lungs. In the previous video I have already discussed about the process of respiration through cell membrane, gills, skin and air tubes. So today we will discuss about the process of respiration through lungs. And in this part we will discuss about the process of respiration in human. In land animals like amphibians, birds and lizards and humans, the lung it serves as the respiratory organ. It contains some tiny balloon-like structures which are known as alveoli, and these alveoli provides the respiratory surface for exchange of gases. So, through these alveoli, the lungs carry out the process of respiration. So, then come to the respiration in human. In case of human, they needs lungs for their respiration, and this type of respiration is known as pulmonary respiration. The oxygen that we take by the process of respiration, it will use for the oxidation of food and which will release some energy. And the entire process is known as respiration. And here the byproduct that will release is carbon dioxide, water and energy inside the cell. So, in the respiration in human, it requires a types of respiratory system, and the system it consists of a series of passages, and they are nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli and lungs. Then come to the first part, that is nostrils. Nostrils are 2 in number and they help in the entry of air into the nose, and from nose it goes to the nasal cavity. In the nasal cavity, this part is also known as nasal passage, and there is a bony pellet-like structure present which separates the nasal cavity from the oral cavity. And due to presence of this separation, we can take the food and air simultaneously. In the nasal cavity, there is also presence of some ciliated epithelial cells and mucus secreting cells. The cilia and the mucus of this nasal cavity, it prevents the entry of germ and dust particle into the lungs. So next come to the pharynx. When the air enters into the nasal cavity, then it run into the pharynx. And the pharynx, it is the common passage for both digestive and respiratory system. And here, the pharynx, it also contains some ciliated epithelial cells and some mucus secreting cells, which helps in the filtration of the air and moistening of the air in this part. So, it prevents the entry of germ into the lungs. There is a cartilaginous flap-like structure present which is known as epiglottis at the opening of the glottis or the trachea. And the function of this epiglottis, it helps in the or it prevents the entry of food into the windpipe while we are eating. So this is the important part of the respiratory system. And in the pharynx, then the air it enters into the larynx. In the larynx, it is also known as the voice box or the Adam's apple. The larynx, it also contains some ciliated and mucus secreting cells. It also helps in the prevention of, it helps in the filtering of the air. The larynx, it contains some cartilaginous or ligamentous cords which are known as the vocal cords. There are two vocal cords, and these are the two vocal cords. These vocal cords helps in the producing of sound by creating a vibration when the force come from inside to the outside. It become vibrate and it produce the sound that make the speech. So the larynx, it helps in the making of the voice. Then come to the next part, that is trachea. The trachea or the windpipe, it extends from the interior of the larynx and it runs down the neck. It measures about 11 cm in length and 2.5 cm in diameter. The trachea, it contains some C-shaped ring of cartilage which helps or prevents the collapsing of the trachea. And these rings of cartilage, it also gives the flexibility to the trachea. And the trachea, it also contains some ciliated epithelial cells and mucous secreting cells. So here in this part also, the cilia and mucus, it also prevent the entry of germs and dust particles into the lungs. Then after entering the air into the trachea, it goes to the next part, that is bronchi. So the trachea, it divides into two bronchi, that is left and right bronchi, and the singular is known as bronchus. So each bronchus enters into left lung and right lungs on left side and right side. So again, after entering the air into the bronchi, it will go to the bronchioles, which are the branching of the bronchi. The bronchi, it enters into the lungs. It again divided into branches which are known as the bronchioles. And again the bronchioles, it forms the secondary branches, the secondary bronchioles in both the left and right lungs. And from the bronchioles, it again the branching of the bronchioles, it terminate at some bones of sacs which are known as the alveoli. And the alveoli, these are the tiny balloon-like structures which are the actual surface of gaseous exchange. So then from the alveoli, the air, it comes to the, then from the bronchiole, the air, it comes to the alveoli, and from alveoli, the air, it comes to the lungs. So then come to the lungs. So lungs is a spongy, hollow, bag-like structure, and these are cone-shaped, and their top is tapering and the bottom, it is flat structure. And here the lungs, it is covered by a membrane that is known as pleural membrane. And there are two types of pleural membrane is present, that is outer pleura and inner pleura. So the membrane is pleural membrane, and the two layers of pleura, that is outer pleura and inner pleura, there is a cavity present which contains some liquid, and this liquid-like substance, it helps in the easy movement of lungs during the breathing process. And the lungs, it contains 7 millions of alveoli which helps in the process of gaseous exchange. And the lungs, the left lung and the right lung, if we compare these two lungs, the left lung is slightly smaller than the right lung due to accommodate the heart in between them. And the alveoli that are present in the lungs, it helps in the gaseous exchange. These are the important structure of the lungs. If we can assume that if there will be no alveoli present in the lungs, then the air that the oxygen it enters into the body or the lungs, it will take about 3 years to reach to the toe. So the RBCs, therefore they are accommodated with the hemoglobin which carry the oxygen from this alveoli to different part of the cells. Then come to the mechanism of breathing. The breathing is the simple mechanical process and it is the first step of respiration. The air that passes in and out of the lungs, it occurs by the alternate expansion and relaxation of the thoracic cavity. And this occurs by two types of muscles. They are intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle. These two types of muscle helps in the expansion and contraction of the thoracic cavity. So the mechanism of breathing, it depends upon two types of steps. They are inhalation and exhalation. So first come to the inhalation. The breathing in of air is known as inhalation or inspiration. And this process carried out by the two types of muscle, that is intercostal muscle and diaphragm. In inhalation process, the rib cage it moves outward and upward. So the intercostal muscles, it helps in the upward and outward movement of the rib cage. So the volume of the thoracic cavity increases. On contraction, the diaphragm it becomes flattened and it increases the thoracic cavity lengthwise. So due to increase of the thoracic cavity or the increase of volume of thoracic cavity, the pressure inside the lungs it decreases. So the lungs expands and it helps in the entry of air from the atmosphere into the lungs. So in the inhalation process, the intercostal muscle and diaphragm they contracts, the lungs expands and the volume of thoracic cavity increases and the air it enters into the lungs. So next come to the exhalation. In the exhalation, it is the breathing out of the air and it is also known as expiration. In this process, both the muscles, that is intercostal muscle and diaphragm, they come to their original state and the lungs it also come to its relaxation state, and here the volume of the thoracic cavity decreases. So the pressure inside the cavity increases, so the air it will go to outside. So in the exhalation process, the rib cage, the intercostal muscle and diaphragm they come to their original state and the diaphragm it becomes dome shaped. So these were the two types of mechanism of breathing. Then we have to know about the control system of the breathing. In case of a healthy human, the breathing rate is about 15 to 18 times per minute. But during the exercise, it may be increased to 20 to 25 times per minute. And there is a control center present in the brain, that is in the medulla oblongata. And this medulla oblongata or the center of control, it accelerates by carbon dioxide. When in the blood the concentration of carbon dioxide increases, the rate of breathing also increases. Then come to the transport of gases. it consists of two steps, that is transport of oxygen and transport of carbon dioxide. So in the first step, that is transport of oxygen, when the oxygen it comes through the diffusion process into the alveolar blood vessel, then the blood it contains the respiratory pigment, that is hemoglobin. The hemoglobin it has a close affinity with the oxygen, and one molecule of hemoglobin it mixes with 4 molecules of oxygen and it forms oxyhemoglobin. In these forms it go to different types of cells through the blood. Then come to the transport of carbon dioxide. When the oxygen it reaches to different types of cells and it used in different metabolic activities, the cells or tissues they release the carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide it has to be returned to the alveoli through the blood, and the carbon dioxide it has a very good close affinity with the water as compared to that of blood. So the carbon dioxide it carried through the blood in some bicarbonate form. And in this bicarbonate form it becomes dissolved in the plasma and it carry out in this form about 70%, and the rest of the percentage of the carbon dioxide it mixes with the hemoglobin of the blood and it forms the carbaminohemoglobin. In this form, in these two forms, it reaches the alveoli of the lungs, and in the alveoli, this bicarbonate ion it breaks and it forms the carbon dioxide and water again. So these were all about the process of respiration in human. So today I completed the respiration process, and in the next class we will discuss about the process of transportation. So go and check my channel for some related question or previous year questions regarding the process of respiration. So thank you for today.